I like to set out the parts pretty much like the way they show in the instruction diagram. I got my cordless gun ready to go. I like to use wood glue. Outdoor wood glue is pretty well the best. Okay, you take the bottom back support and the top back support, which looks like a canoe, and orient them on a flat surface so that the little countersink holes that are in them are facing the same direction. On here I have them facing the right. Take your center back slat that's going to be screwed onto these parts and sort of space them equidistant to where you see the screw holes are. Okay, you take your wood glue, and I usually just put a little bead of glue along the surface where the slats are going to sit. It's kind of the lazy man's way of doing it. Okay, grab two short screws. Just thread them in a bit, and I like to have the point sticking out the back, so I'll use the screw gun to make sure it sticks through a bit, so I can find that little pre-drilled hole that's in the center of the canoe part, which is really the upper back support. But we call it the canoe. Okay, I like to pop that one in place. It's kind of in place now. I've done the same with the other screw on the other end of the slat. Find the little dimple and screw it in. And so I've got the other back slats here. These are the two outer ones. There's 5 in total. So they sort of just sit on the edges, the outer edges of the two supports. And this is where you're going to see if your supports are crooked with each other or not right now. So I've already sort of adjusted them so that the screw holes are where you put the screw in is sort of in the center of that support piece. So you're not like going to crack the piece when you put the screws in. So now I've got the other slats in place. Pop the screws in place and screw them in. There you are, spacing them a little bit to make them look kind of symmetrical. And you're kind of looking at the top edge of the slats to see if they kind of line up with each other. Depending on how fussy you are with your final product, you might want to sand the top edges of these slats. Personally, I'm too lazy to do that. Now just screw the other ones in. So that little line of glue that I put on, it's kind of the lazy man's way of putting the glue in place. Now see there, I'm fudging things a little bit. I didn't like how, even though I probably had it pretty close to the right hole to start with, now I've kind of just adjusted it. And it doesn't really matter if you have things perfect, because it looks good when you're done anyways. Now I like to try and, sometimes they're not parallel with each other, so I like to sort of eyeball down from the canoe part down to the bottom support, and you can sort of twist the back assembly like one way or the other to try and line it up while the glue is still setting. So now I've got the legs and the sides. They have an inside and an outside of them. So right now I'm putting glue on the inside of the legs. They have lines on them and a right-left marking that line up with the side parts. You can see right there, that's the left side. And here's the right side. And so we've stuck a layer of glue in between the two pieces. Now the countersink, the drill countersinks are all going to be facing up towards you. That's the side with the letter on it, the L or the R. So now I'm just putting all the screws in the little holes. And I like to just screw one screw through the piece so that it's sticking through, and then find that little dimple mark in the leg. So all the legs have like 4 little dimple marks where the screws go in. So I'm just lining one of them up basically. And then when you put that one screw in, there's a pencil line on the leg, like right along where the bottom edge of the side is. And put that screw in, then you can sort of move it around so that that line lines up. You can see there's a pencil line right there, just to make sure that it sits nice and square. So now I'm going to put the front piece on. Okay, so first of all, I'm going to take the glue and put a bit of glue on the front edge of the sides. I'm going to take the 4 of the long screws and I'm going to put them in the pre-drilled holes in the front slat. This is a little bit of an annoying part to put on. So I usually grab it, put it on the floor, support it with my legs. That's the hardest part of putting this whole chair together, actually. And do the same on the other side, kind of line it all up. Okay, this is where I check to see how flat it is. So I've got both sides that look pretty 90 degrees with the flat surface you're working off of. So now you just put the other 3 screws in. So it's a pretty solid, sturdy setup now. So yeah, the long screws in that front strip. That's because you're going into end grain and it's nice to have the extra thread to bite into the end grain. Okay, now we're putting the back assembly on. So there's a little spot there for the back assembly to fit. So put some glue on it. And these are just the regular length screws going in here. And the edge of the part is flush with the edge of the sides. Now we're putting the comfort slat, that's what we like to call it. It's just a curved piece. It's like a seat slat with a curved edge on the back of it. And then there's 6 seat slat pieces to go on. So I'll just sort of set them in place. I've put a bead of glue along this whole edge. There we go. Now you just sort of eyeball them, spread them out between each other. It's a gap of maybe 5 millimeters or like 1/4 of an inch kind of thing between the two, each slat. And then sort of keep them flush with the edge. Space them out. You can do a little bit of fiddling and adjusting here and there. Okay, now we're finished the base assembly. On to the arm supports. So we've got 2 little triangle parts and 2 blocks. We're going to start with 4 long screws, so 2 in each block. This is going to go down into the end grain of the tops of the legs. So get your glue, put a little bead on top of each leg. Okay, now I'm putting the block, lining the edge of the block up with the leg and screwing the 2 long screws into the end grain. I'm repeating on the other side. Now I'm going to take 2 of the regular size screws and put them into the side of the leg, the pre-drilled holes from the insides, and 1 on the top, taking the triangle, and on the right angle edges, putting a little bead of glue. Fitting the triangle in nice and tight. And screw that top screw down into the triangle. Repeating on the other side. Eyeball it so it looks nice and centered on the leg. Next step, we're going to put the struts on. So you take 2 long screws, screw them into the back of the top arm support. Put a bit of glue on that angled edge, the pointy edge faces forward. Okay, drill that long screw down into the top of the strut. Do the same on the other side. Tilt the strut out and put a little dab of glue on there. Now you're going to use the regular shorter screws, 4 of them, to attach the strut to the inside of the side. Okay, and the final step, attaching the arms. Put a bit of glue on the top of the blocks and a little dab of glue on the inside back edge of the arm. This is where it's going to attach to the strut. A couple of short screws, the regular screws, from the inside of the strut. And now you'll have 4 screws left over. 2 go into the bottom of the arms. Through the block, there's 2 pre-drilled holes on each side. I like to leave a little gap on the inside of the leg where the arm sort of overlaps it. And there you go. Well done. The Bear Chair Company. Peace.